is the ability to channel, okay, infinite knowledge. Now, where are you getting this from? It's happening from your subconscious and the superconscious, or God. Okay, so God works with the subconscious depending on what you believe and how you believe. And based upon that belief, it will give you information. Okay, so and it's the same thing I keep saying all the time about you driving down the road, you get that feeling to turn right, you dismiss it with your logic, the left hemisphere of the brain, and you continue and you get stuck in a traffic jam and you go, I knew I should have turned over there, right? Because those things happen all the time. Because you did know, you really did know, but you did not follow your intuition or divine guidance, if you will. Whatever you believe, however you believe, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but that is the superconscious. The superconscious is the network that we're all plugged into through awareness. Okay, you are awareness. Animals don't have the same awareness. They have one reality. They just look out like this. They cannot observe themselves. Okay, and that's why we have so many problems as human beings, because we observe ourselves, we start, critiquing ourselves, right? In motion, we start critiquing ourselves in real time. We start with the negative self-talk, and the animals can't judge themselves. Okay, they cannot judge themselves. Okay, but anyway, surrendering resistance, and how are we going to do that? And this is important for channeling. Okay, or let's say it another way. For bringing forth the infinite knowledge that you are plugged into. Okay, because you start spitting it out when you start explaining things to people, right? Okay, you start saying it, and then you go, wow, I didn't know I knew that. Okay, but you explain it. Okay, and yeah, you probably did not know that, but it's working off of your subconscious and the superconscious together as a team. Okay, and then you start expounding on this knowledge that you had no idea that you had, right? So in order to do that, what's necessary? Well, you need to relax inside. You need to switch inside, okay? So the relaxation is like this. Like, let's say this represents normal tension, okay? Your daily normal tension, okay? Your functioning energy, normal. Let's say this is normal. What you need to do to channel is do this, okay? As fast as possible. Okay, now I do this all the time. I do this on my lives. Okay, I do this all the time on my lives. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to relax like that. Can you relax like this? Can you go from this? I'm talking about inside, okay? Like from here to like that. Just like this. Just let go, inside, okay? If you can do that, you can channel. It takes time. It takes time to learn. Not to learn the deliberate channeling, to learn how to relax inside, internally, because that's when the information flows, okay? And you have to pay attention. It's a transaction. You have to pay attention, okay? What does attention cost? It costs your time, and that's your life. Okay, so when they say pay attention, it means that you're focused. Okay, that means you're giving your time, you're giving your focus, and that's called attention. When you focus on that one thing, that's attention. You're giving it attention. It's like when you have a spouse, you give your spouse attention, or your significant other attention. And it takes part of your life, because for that moment, however long that is, it could be an hour, it could be an evening, it could be a day. It's part of your life that you're paying, that you're giving. Okay? So don't be afraid to give. Now, what is surrender? Surrender resistance. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to let go of the left brain's control. Okay, so left brain, right brain, okay? Your left brain mode tries to plan, it tries to predict, it tries to micromanage, it tries to analyze, it tries to judge. Okay? It anticipates outcomes. That's what your left brain does. Okay? So you need to let go of these things. Why? Because all of these things are deliberate, logical actions. They come from the reptilian brain, the left side, the left hemisphere of your brain. Okay? And what this does is it creates mental tension. Okay? And what did I just say? You have to relax like that. Okay? Relax. This might be an adequate visual because you just relax it that much, like this, like that, inside. Okay? It's the opposite of intuitive flow. When you're in intuitive flow state, okay, and I'm like that almost every morning here talking to you because I focus on relaxing inside, and then whatever happens and it comes out. Okay? So this is a subconscious activity. This is not demonic, this is not angelic, it's neither. It's neither. Okay? Channeling becomes possible when you surrender resistance. Why? Because then intuition flows. Intuitive thought flows. Your subconscious is also a reservoir for everything you've seen, everything you've studied, everything you've witnessed, everything you've seen online, every book you read. It remembers everything. So human beings, right, we doubt ourselves a lot. So we don't really give ourselves credit for things like that, even if we know about it. Most of us don't even realize it. Because we say, oh, I have a bad memory. Okay. Sometimes we say it just because we've heard other people say it. Sometimes we just join in. Okay. Humans adapt to their environment very quickly, and you adapt to others very quickly. And if your bestie is going around saying they don't have a good memory, pretty soon you start thinking about it and you go, yeah, I don't have a good memory either. And then you start saying it. If you say it often enough, guess what? It goes to the subconscious as a belief. Okay? A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Okay, so now, channeling, right? So you surrender inside, you let go. It's just the mental tension, because you need mental tension to think. But that tension is generally from the left side, because the right side is creativity, imagination. The right side is intuitiveness, intuition. Okay, all of these things are on the right side. Communicating with intuition involves activating your right brain awareness. Okay, what is that? Pattern recognition. Okay, creativity. Okay, artists know this. Artists know how to do this very, very well. Okay, so this is creativity. Okay, this is imagination. This is emotional intelligence. This is symbolism. Symbolism, right brain activity. Okay. What if you have physically tension that won't allow the relaxation? Then you have to focus on relaxing the physical first. Okay? Start from your toes, work your way on up. Lie down if you have to. Go over sections, focus on sections of your body. Okay? Okay, if you're looking for a business consultation, you can message Junior here on TikTok. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Jay. Good morning, Jay. Okay, there we go. I try to get to all the... you have problems with fear of failure. We talk about that all the time. Okay, don't fear failure. Failure is a part of success. If you're failing, you're doing the right thing. Okay? The main thing is that you learn from your failures. Failures give us more lessons than success. Okay, because if something works and we do something and it works and we're successful with it, right? We stop paying attention to it. The minute we fail, it draws our attention to it. Energy flows where attention goes. So what happens? We're reminded of it. We remind ourselves of it. And when we move forward, we remember the failure, okay? And the failure pushes us towards the other direction, towards success. And it's a lesson learned. So, right brain functions, okay? Creativity, imagination. Okay, so now the operating code of reality is what intuition is. It's your operating system. It's your internal operating system, your guidance system. So women have a heightened sense of this because they're engineered to have children. That's why you have the term women's intuition. Women are especially sensitive in that way. She can spot the creep across the room. Okay. She picks up on things. She senses things. Why? Well, because if she's a mama bear and she has babies, she needs to really be sensitive and look out for those babies and protect those babies. On a side note, if you want a really good dog to guard your house, you don't pick the male dog. You pick the female. Okay, so if you were going to buy a German Shepherd, you want the female German Shepherd. She will fight to the death to protect the property. Okay. Women are like that, okay? Try to take her baby away and see what she does. Okay. It's the same thing. We used to catch chickens when I was a kid. We used to go down and see how many chicks we could get, right? And it was a major ordeal to steal one away from its mother. Okay. And they would kick and scream and cluck and chase you and do all kinds of stuff. Like they would do just about anything to get their chick back. Okay, it's the same with all mammals. So placing your heart at the center seat of command, okay, equals your right brain emotional intelligence. What does that mean? When the heart becomes the guide, okay, and this is figurative, okay, you switch from intellect to feeling. Okay. Your heart gives off the largest vibration, okay? And you can tell when something excites you because your heart starts palpitating faster. You know, when you start thinking about a certain person you like, when you start thinking about a food you want to eat, when you start thinking about, right? Okay? That's an indication. That's a good indication. It means you like something. It means you love something. It means you're into something. So when your heart becomes your guide, you switch from intellect to feeling. You switch from logic to inner sensing. You rely on your senses. Your subconscious is the culmination of all of your senses. Okay? You go from thinking, which is a logical process, logic, to perceiving, perception. How do you perceive something? What is perceiving something? Perceiving something is taking a look at something and your subconscious scans it and it retrieves all the data from it instantaneously. It's also preconceived judgment. But where does the judgment come from? The right or the left? It comes from the left. Because your subconscious will scan everything and give you a result. And it could be a preconceived result. It could be like, whoa, that guy looks creepy, or whoa, that guy looks like a crook, or whoa, that guy looks like a good guy or girl. Okay? The right brain is parasympathetic. Your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay? The left brain commands, it gives commands, logical commands. The right brain receives. Okay, it receives. So we use the right and left simultaneously. Okay, some people pull one side or favor one side, and sometimes that's genetic. Sometimes you have a really, really talented person that pulls the right brain. Think of Michael Jackson, right brain. And then sometimes they pull the left brain. Think of Einstein, okay? Left brain. But even the dominant left brain people consult the right. This is why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. This is why you're urged to move to the right. Okay? Because faith, divine guidance, God are all in the right hemisphere of the brain, not the left. That's why you cast your net to the right side, because abundance is on the right side. Why? Because creativity is on the right side. Look at all the creative people in the world that are wealthy. Innovators, people who change industries, people who change the world, people who invent conveniences. So the brain shifts from controller to receiver, controller to receiver, controller to receiver, left to right, like that. Okay. So when it makes that shift to the right, it quiets the left, and you pull to the right, and then you pull to the left, and you go back and forth depending on what's required, depending on what's in front of you. What are you working on? Because some projects have both creativity, a creative element in it, and a logical element in it. Most projects are all like that. But a lot of people get stuck trying to figure out how, with the left brain, the left side, logically try to figure something out. Like, oh boy, I can't picture how this is going to work. Well, if you can't picture it, you need to shift your thinking to the right side. You need to rely on the superconscious or God. Because the how is God's job. And this is why when you take the steps towards something and the doors begin to open and the right people come into play like this, we think it's a coincidence, right? But the right people come into play like this, the doors begin to open, things start to show itself according to what the topic is in the subconscious. You know, what's the topic in the subconscious? Whatever your focus is, the doors will open according to that and according to what your belief is. So your belief is normally your focus, things you believe in. So it's conscious, subconscious, superconscious. You organize your painting class currently to launch. Very good. Oh, that's nice. Good luck with that, Lucy. So channeling requires the analytical mind to kind of quiet down a little bit, okay? Because when you're channeling, you need an open stream. You need to be in flow state. What is flow state? Flow state is when you access the creative side of your brain, the right side. That's intuition. When you're in flow state, you can get through a lot of work in a little time. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. You can get through a lot of work in a little time. You know you're in flow state when you've been working on something. Let's say you're in your laptop and you're working on something. Lucy, maybe you're working on art. And you sit down and you focus on it. And maybe you're painting, Lucy. And then you get to the point where you're tired. And you look up at the clock and you go, wow, it didn't feel like I was doing this for 2.5 hours. It's like you're in a time warp. Time goes by because you're intently focused on something. So you block everything out. That's flow state. Flow state is where there's no interruptions. Flow state is where everything goes smoothly. You can do a large volume of work very quickly. One of my clients was a nurse at a hospital, and her job was to process papers. She was an administrative nurse. She wasn't a hospital nurse. And she used to have a huge stack in her inbox every day. And I taught her how to go into flow state. I taught her how to quiet the left brain. And she did my vocalization exercise, which is the cornerstone of all of this. And when she did that, she used to get through half the stack before lunch and half the stack before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then she had 2.5 hours to do minor things because flow state allowed her to get through all of that so quickly. Yeah, there's still a little effort involved, but it flows. It's easy. It's not difficult. It's an easy effort. So your left brain is the controller, your left side, okay? It controls. It's the analytical part, okay? It wants order, certainty, okay? And this is why people get stuck, because they want to be sure, right? So they use their left brain, their analytical side, their logic, and they want to be sure that something's going to turn out, right? Because that would be logical to figure something out. So years ago, I used to plan everything, right? I used to be a good planner. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, all that, right? And at the point, I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years into my studies that I was doing into quantum physics. And I started realizing that no matter what I planned, the result would be different. In other words, nothing would go in accordance with my planning. Something always happened, and there was a deviation in the plan. Not by my choosing, just the dynamics of the project or the dynamics of whatever it was that I was planning. So I started to focus more on the plan itself, on the planning phase of everything. And then I realized why thought leaders always tell you to focus on the outcome. Because the how is God's job. So when I started doing that, all I would do is design the outcome, which is what I do now. I don't make the steps, I don't plan the steps 1, 2, 3 like in order or anything like that. That's not necessary. What's necessary is you have a clear picture of what the finish line looks like, okay? A clear picture of what the completion looks like. A clear picture on what your goal looks like. You don't have to know how. So many people don't start a business because they don't know how to start a business. They go, well, I don't know how to start a business. I didn't either. And I own a family of service companies today. How did I do that? I didn't know how. I just did it. I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, it's easy for you to say because, you have these companies. But what I'm saying is when I started them, with the exception of one, I had no idea what I was doing. And I relied strictly upon divine guidance. But guess what happened? The right people came. I met the right people for the telephone book ad. I met the right people, along the way, right? Step by step by step by step by step. And everything came together. So I decided to do the same thing with my second company, my third company, my fourth company. Then at one time I did beef jerky. We did Junior's jerky. And I was presented with this opportunity. This guy actually wanted me to market his jerky in Hawaii. And I said, well, what if we white label it? He said, yeah, okay. So we did that. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I knew what the goal was. It was to sell beef jerky, and we sold tons of it in California and in Hawaii. So you don't need to know how. But you do have to have a clear picture of what you want to do. That's all. Okay? So your left brain always wants you to figure out how. The ego is on the left hemisphere. The ego always thinks it knows best, but you have to surrender the ego. And that's what this is all about. In order to channel, you have to surrender the ego. How do you surrender the ego? You just relax the left brain thinking. Relax, in other words, take your mind off of how you're going to do something. Take your mind off of the logical process. Like, this doesn't make sense. Right? Like, this doesn't make sense. I need to find out how to make this make sense. No, you don't. I built a $4 million ad machine that I had operating with 6 radio stations for 15 years that helped to build a lot of companies. And every business person I talked to thought it was a crazy idea. There was this one girl who had an MBA. She couldn't wrap her mind around it. And she had an MBA. She was a college graduate with a degree in business, a master's. She couldn't figure it out. All I knew was I had to do advertising. I had to build this machine. And I didn't know how, and it got built. And it was just one step at a time, follow the steps, God opens the doors, and boom, it happens. Now, sometimes when you make plans, which is why I don't make plans anymore, okay? You have the first step, second step, third step, fourth step. So you do the first step. Everything's going good, you do the second step. Things are going good. Right when you get to the third step, you get taken out to left field, and boom, you get your dream. Or you get your goal, right? You get your final result. And what happens? You go, wow, I never thought it would happen this way. It's completely different than I thought. So what I do now is I just focus on the end goal. That's all I do. Okay, so when people tell you, just focus on the outcome, focus on the final outcome, they're not kidding. It's true. Okay, it does work like that. And you have to keep your eye on the prize, meaning you have to keep focused on the outcome. Okay, you don't have to ask God for it every day. You don't have to pray for it every day. You don't have to write intentions for it every day, but you need to do maintenance. In your spare time, you need to see it here. Okay, Bob Proctor said, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Okay, let me give you an example. This is my book. Okay, I had to see this in my mind first before I could hold the physical copy in my hand. Okay, I had to see it here first. But the first job I had to accomplish here was to realize and to believe that I was worthy to do this, that I was worthy to have this, that I was worthy to have a book on Amazon. And it took a while for this to materialize, because first I had to think about it. And this is my process. This is the way I do everything. I had to think about it first, think about it, think about it. I call it wrapping my mind around it. Because you have to wrap your mind around it. If you don't wrap your mind around what you're doing, you're not going to believe in it. You're not going to believe in yourself. And it will not materialize. So the universal law of attraction and singing is about confidence. It's about the confidence that we built through people's voices. It's not about singing per se. Okay. But if I put a sign on my door that said motivational self-development through the human voice, nobody would come. So I had to call it a singing school. And then people came, and then they got confident, and then they changed their lives, and their stories are in here. Okay, so if you want one, just message me on whatever platform you're watching right now, and send me your email, and I will send you the book, absolutely free, PDF copy. I'll send it to your email, okay? But first of all, I had to see this good enough. I had to see myself good enough. The second thing I had to do, right, was I had to see myself. So first I had to see myself worthy. I had to see myself good enough. The second thing I had to do was see myself holding my book in my hand. I had to see myself sitting down at my laptop and pounding out the book, right? And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. Guess what the trigger was? Okay. I was doing a lot of marketing at the time. I wrote the book in 2016. In 2010, I built my marketing agency. It's called VMAC Consultants. You can look it up. It's online. VMAC Consultants. Okay. So I built that company. And I met this guy who was also he was in sales. He was mostly in sales. But he was a teacher as well, like I am. And he was teaching people how to do sales. And he called himself a sales resultant, which I thought was really cool. Resultant, right? Instead of consultant. Because he gets results, right? I get results too, but, I chose the traditional way. And so anyway, I met him. I got to know him. He worked out at a gym that I used to work out at. So I thought, well, I'll go support his book. So I went to his website and I bought his book. It was a digital download. And one morning, I'm reading his book, and in the first chapter, it said that he wrote his book. Oh, good evening to everybody in Kenya. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, Bishop. And he said he wrote his book on a 20-minute flight to Maui. And I was like, what? Okay, that provoked this book. That was the trigger, right? Because my left brain was trying to figure out how. How am I going to do this? How am I going to write the book? How am I going to write the how? When I saw that and I go, well, he wrote the book in 25 minutes on a plane to Maui. So if he could do that, I can go to Starbucks, grab a Trenta, sit down at my laptop, and pound out the first, whatever chapters. I did 12. There's 15 chapters in the book. Okay, if you want the book, it's free today for all of the viewers, okay? For all you guys. Just send me your email in the messaging or in DMs or whatever, however, whichever platform you're on. And I'll send a PDF copy to you, okay? And I pounded out 12 chapters because I told myself, all right, what other proof do you need that you can write a book? And I made a lot of errors. I made a lot of errors. The first printing had to be recalled. Okay, we had to take it down. And the cover looked terrible. And it was because I thought, well, I can do a cover, right? Wrong. Wrong. And that was totally wrong, okay? But you have to try. And this is where you go back to failure, right? Who asked that question? F. You were talking about failure. And so I failed. And what was the lesson? The lesson was to hire a professional. So I went back and I hired a professional to design the cover, and then I got this, which is a very nice cover. I wish I had a copy of the first printing. I don't, but it was terrible. It was very plain. Yeah, I wouldn't call it terrible, but it was not professional. And then the funny thing was I saw somebody trying to sell it for like $35. This is $10 on Amazon. I made it affordable so that more people could realize how powerful the human voice is and how it can make you confident, how it can heal you, how it can take away anxiety, guilt, shame, fear, all of those negative emotions. So I made it affordable. Okay? But I'll tell you one thing. If I could not see this in my mind, I could not hold it in my hand. Bob Proctor said, if you can see it here, you can hold it here. You can hold it here. Okay? And this goes for everything. If you cannot imagine yourself walking into your office, your own, or your restaurant, your place of business. Okay, I had a space for 24 years. Did I just run out and get a space? No. It didn't work like that. And my family didn't help me either. I did it all on my own. Well, I didn't do it on my own, but I didn't get it from my family. Okay? It was a business arrangement. And that turned into 24 years of being at my location that I was at, in the town that I'm from, in Hawaii. But number one, you have to believe in yourself and consider yourself worthy no matter what, above all else. Number two, ask, believe, receive. You have to ask. When you ask, you will get the divine guidance. When you ask, you will get whatever it is you're asking for granted. But you have to stay the course. You have to keep going. And sometimes it gets hard. Okay, I stayed on a course for 40 years that I was on. And the first 20 years, a little over 20 years, was very, very tough. And then all of a sudden, God decided to open the door one day, and boom, the rest, as they say, is history. Was it divine guidance? Oh, yeah. But what had to change first? My subconscious had to change first. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Because before that, I was stuck in old patterns and kept going in circles and circles and circles and circles. And it took one really bad, and then the next working environment was where everything went boom. Because I had to make the change. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Earl Nightingale said that. You have to change the way you look at things. And that's perception. When you adjust your perception, you're actually adjusting a result. Okay? Because if you perceive something to be negative at the onset, remember, everything has a positive and negative. But if you see it as a negative, so many people, when they get to that kind of situation, they're quick to judge. So they pronounce judgment. This is that. This is that. Right? So they pronounce judgment. When you pronounce judgment, it becomes final. And when you pronounce judgment, guess what happens? Judgment comes back to you. How does that happen? Through your subconscious. But when you pronounce judgment, in other words, you see something, it looks shady, and you go, that's shady. Now you've just canceled the possibility of changing the perception to what you're looking at. But if you give it some time and some patience, and you observe, you become the observer. So you take yourself out of the box, you turn around and you look back into the box, all in real time, because we can do that. We're humans, we can observe. We can observe ourselves, and we can observe ourselves in situations. Have some patience, observe. Pretend you're a movie camera. Use imagination. Just stand there and observe in neutral, okay? Not belonging to any particular opinion, and look at it and ask yourself, what's the good side of this? Sometimes there's no good side of it that you can see right away, right? You have to wait. But when you begin to be patient and you become the observer, right? Then you slowly see it change. And if it's a person, the person might say something and you go, oh, okay. Because you thought it was negative first, right? But you give it patience, time, or you say, what do you mean by that? Or what is this really? Or whatever. Ask for clarification. And when you're patient, boom, it turns positive. So the right hemisphere of your brain is the one that's responsible for higher self, universal consciousness, God, Jesus Christ, okay? It's all on the right side. Jesus lives at the right hand of the Father. He sits at the right hand of the Father. Okay? The apostles cast their net to the right. It's talking about the right hemisphere of your brain. When you are in left brain mode, you feel separate and isolated. Why? Because it's logic, it's ego. Okay? The ego is the lone wolf that thinks he knows better. Okay? When you're in the right brain mode, you feel connected. Why? Because you are connected. That's where meditation comes in. You are connected to the expansiveness of all that is. And you don't experience it if you don't meditate. You'll never find it. You'll never see it. You'll never feel it. You have to be still. That's why they have that expression, be still and know. Because when you are still, you will know. And you will see the truth. And the truth will set you free. What does it set you free from? From this physical world that has labels on everything. That says this is that, this is that, this is that, this is that other thing, that's that other thing, this is the library, that's the store, this is the school, that's the playground. These things have been set before you. They've been placed before you. And for some people, this is the degree. I am that. I am the PhD. I am the manager. I am the supervisor. I am the... And some people need to be pulled away from that after years and years and years and years of identifying as their job, as their title, as their degree, as the company they work for. And they wake up one day and go, what about me? Me is in here. You're not your body. You're not your name. You're that energy that lives in here. You've been assigned a name. You've been given a body to get around in, to do things with. I use this to play my guitar, to pick up things, to touch things, touch people, hug people. Okay? So now, doubt and fear. Okay? Overthinking. Okay? All of these disappear when you quiet the left side of the brain, the logic side. When you open up the right side. So we switch, right? We switch from left to right constantly, all day long. depending on what's in front of us, what the task is. Doubt and fear and overthinking are hallmarks of left brain dominant thinking over here, this side. So some people use the left side all the time, depending on what kind of job they have. If you're an accountant, left side. Okay. If you're maybe a project manager, left side. Sometimes right? Because you got to be creative with certain things. But if you have a job that really anchors you in the left all the time, and you have a habit of just leaning to the left, everything you own in the box to the left, right? It's difficult to cross over to the right more. It's difficult to quiet the left more. That's where meditation comes in. That's where the vocalization exercise that we do comes in. When you shift into right brain mode, what happens? The fear drops. Clarity rises. Why? Because you see things for what they are rather than the logical thing that they're presented to you as. Many things are presented to you one way, but they're not really that. They make you think it's that, and then they make you think you need it, depending on what it is, right? Okay? And then you rely on it. Why? Because humans bond easily with anything, right? Now you hear people go, I'm obsessed with this. This is my latest obsession. And those people are usually obsessed. They're truly obsessed. But they go from obsession to obsession to obsession to obsession. What are they really doing? They're appreciating in excess. Okay? They're loving it in excess. And what happens? The subconscious has learned to obsess. And now it's a constant obsession. It's a constant fixation. It's a constant addiction. It's hitting that dopamine button over and over and over and over. And then what happens? Well, then you get burnt out. Too much dopamine. Then you get desensitized. Then you cannot have empathy anymore. Why? Because you become detached. You become isolated. Why? Well, because you become conditioned. And your subconscious plays into everything. It says, okay, we're obsessed. Okay, we're going to be obsessed. We're going to be obsessed. And then if you don't have a current obsession, you go looking for one. You hunt for one until you find it. And then you go, oh, this is my new obsession. And you hear people talk like this all the time. They discuss it openly. There's no judgment with it. I'm not saying it's bad. If you enjoy it, okay. After your divorce, after your divorce and custody, you lost your purpose. Okay, you need to find your purpose. So in order to find your purpose, get yourself one of these. Okay, get one of these. Okay, get one of these. Okay, and start writing. Start writing. Ask on paper. Okay. Ask your higher self, God, Jesus Christ, whoever you believe, write it down. You know, if it's Jesus, dear Jesus, please, please show me what my purpose is. Please show me my purpose. Okay, and write that. Write it once a day. Ask questions. When you get the answer, write the answer down by hand. Then ask the next question by hand. And the answer will come. It's coming from your subconscious. And that will solve your problem. That will help. And then you'll know what steps to take, and then you can go in that direction and pursue that. Okay, so to know intuition is to know yourself. Why? Because your intuition is relative to you. Okay? The subconscious tree, the roots of the tree are your subconscious core beliefs. The trunk of the tree is your paradigm, which is constructed out of your beliefs and forms your worldview, or how you see life, how you see the world, how you see others. How do you feel about others? It It depends on what your beliefs are. If you believe that you should love people, if you believe that love thy neighbor, love thyself, if you believe, whatever you believe, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. Whatever you believe, that will form your paradigm, the way you see the world. What will this do? What will your paradigm do? It will form your actions, okay? And this is the fruits of the tree. And the fruits of the tree will turn into your results. Intuition comes from the superconscious and the subconscious. So there's conscious, subconscious, superconscious. The conscious mind thinks the thoughts, but only 5%. Because 95%, or maybe there's 10% wiggle room over there. 90%, let's say. 90% is done by your subconscious. So your conscious mind is only supplement thinking. Your beliefs are already in there. And the reason why you have a subconscious is so you don't have to learn to brush your teeth every day. You don't have to learn how to drive the car every day. You don't have to learn how to perform the majority of the tasks you do every day. When you go to work, right? First day of work, you didn't know anything. Then they teach you everything. You commit it to your subconscious. Now when you go to work, there's a system, there's a routine, there's a setup, there's a process. So to know intuition means that intuition is based on your subconscious. What's in your subconscious? You will receive intuitive thought concerning that. The left brain defines self through identity, labels, categories, and roles. And that's that logic that people get stuck in. They get stuck in the logic. I worked with some very logical people, mostly salespeople that were logical, managers that were logical. Most of them were so into their logic, they couldn't see everything else that there was, because there was more to that. There's the creative side. There's the intuition. The right brain defines self through emotional truth, connection, okay, bonding, connection, lived experience, inner resonance, the things that resonate with you on the inside, the things that make you go, ooh, the things that excite you, the things that resonate with your core values, the roots of the tree. Now, balance is important, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying move over to the right, okay? But in the Bible, the journey of Moses is the journey from the left brain, the 40 years in the desert, the left brain to the right brain, to the promised land. The promised land is the right hemisphere of the brain. Jesus sits with God in the promised land. That's why it's called the promised land. That's why the apostles, casting their net to the right, they couldn't pull up the net. It represents abundance. Where do you get abundance from? Everything that has to do with the right hemisphere of your brain. That's abundance. Logic puts restrictions on things, identities on things, labels on things, categories on laws, rules, procedures, okay, systems, left brain. So anyone can channel, okay? And just recapping, Enterprise Philly, I've really been working on my communication and self-awareness and ready to text my ex or move on. Okay, first of all, they're your ex for a reason. You need to rethink that, okay? Think about that for a minute. If you want to message me, I'll give you some pointers on that if you want to. Because I'm looking at it and you said text your ex or move on. So you haven't moved on yet. You can comment further. Go ahead. Tell me what you mean. So whether you think so or not, whether you believe in it or not, you channel. Okay? So when you're explaining, especially on how to do something, and you're talking to somebody, okay, and then you listen to what you're saying and you go, whoa, I can't believe I didn't know I knew that. I can't believe I'm saying that. And then you walk away from the conversation going, I better remember what I said because I didn't even know, right? All you have to do is relax the left brain. The ego, surrender the ego. How do you surrender the ego? You move into neutral, okay? Because the ego thinks it knows best. The ego goes, I got this. We're going in that direction in the conversation. Or we're going in that direction with the process. Okay, when you're in neutral, you're neither right or left. You're the observer. You're just observing. You're just observing. Before you choose sides, before you come to a conclusion, before you come to judgment, before you say, this is that, this is that. Because once you pronounce something like that to be something, whatever it is, you've labeled it. Left brain. You've labeled it. Now what? Now you've classified it. Now it becomes as you've labeled it. Why? Because that's the way you see it. And this is why first impressions are important, right? First impressions. Because when you see the person, I don't know, third, fourth, ninth, 12th impression, and you see them doing something completely opposite, completely different, you go, well, I don't know them like that. No, you don't. You know them from the first impression. And that's where you gave your preconceived judgment. Because our left brain scans like that. The subconscious will scan. So what happens is the left brain forms the opinion, the labels, right? All of that, okay? It'll form the opinion. The subconscious will give evidence. The subconscious goes, yeah, okay, we saw that kind of guy back in, you remember 6 years ago, we saw a guy like that, and yeah, he was shady. Okay, that is a shady guy. And then you go, shady. And that happens all in a split second. It happens when you scan. You walk into a Starbucks, you see somebody, and you form an opinion. You see? Okay. So all you have to do to go into neutral is say no inside quietly to yourself. Say no, no. Because you want to be objective. Especially if you plan to talk to them. Like if you meet somebody, you're meeting somebody for lunch, a business kind of thing, right? And then you meet them for lunch. So you want to be able to go, no, I'm going to have this experience first and then formulate my opinion. For the good of all involved, for the good of the situation, for the good of whatever, for your good, actually. But when you go into that neutral space, now you can channel. Now the left brain is not in control. Now you've switched to the right brain. You've eased the logic, quieted the logic down. And now you begin to channel. Okay, so I have let's see, some comments here before we go. I know it's getting late. Let's see. Okay, so what do we have, Jay? But you do also want reconciliation because the dynamic was mostly healthy, no toxicity, okay? So yeah, Philly, you need to message me, and there are some things you need to know about women. I haven't fully let go of shame and still look for exterior validation at times. Okay, understandable. Yeah, message me. We're almost out of time, and I need to go. I have a day full of clients today. But yeah, Philly, I can enlighten you on that a lot. So, but anyway, that's channeling, okay? So you do channel, okay? But if you are more aware of your channeling and when you channel, okay, just know that you're channeling infinite intelligence or God. God is giving you the messages just the same way as when you drive down the highway, you feel you need to turn left. Your logic, right? Your free will says, nah, never mind. Crazy idea, right? I'm here to say, trust your crazy ideas. That's all I do is crazy ideas. That's all I do. I live off of the right. Okay, because I believe in God, I trust in God, and I let God steer, basically. It's a metaphor, right? Christians say, let go and let God. So let go. You can let go. It's not difficult to let go, but you need to practice the letting go, okay? So that, like this, right? Inside you're like this. This represents the tension of concentration, the tension of life, the tension of personality, the tension of all of that. And all you need to do is like that much, and relax and allow the right brain to take over and allow God to speak, and you will channel. And not only will you benefit yourself, you will benefit, trust me, it'll make sense. Okay, it's 8:02. Sorry, I gotta go, guys, but thank you so much. We're going to let go of our stream that feeds YouTube. YouTube, thank you. We don't normally mention all of this because of our algorithms, but YouTube, thank you very much. Trovo, thank you. Twitch, thank you. Thank you to all of our platforms, and Facebook, Instagram also.